Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Redseapodcast, and welcome back to perhaps what may be both my biggest risk slash favorite series on this show, and something that is really missing in especially the Greek sports community, and that's as voted by you all, that goes by the name of the Red Sea Chronicles, which is basically interviews with people that I think deserve way more recognition than they deserve. And on the top of that list, coming in on episode two, is Tito. How are you, man? Been months.
Yeah, it has been a while. In fact, I bet we could pick out about the last time we talked, given what that was about. And hey, let's move on from that real quick. I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm doing fine, as you can hear in the background. My dog is, as usual, going insane. That's the only thing that will never change regarding this show, no matter the quality. Uh, and first of all, just thank you for coming on. As I said before we started, I know it's very early for you. I guess it's about 9:30 to 10,
8:30 a.m. over here,
8:30.
which is
Jesus
not actually
Christ!
that early, man. Not actually that early.
It changes regarding the people. If you're a vampire that sleeps at like 4 a.m. like I do, it's 8 a.m. It's
Yeah, fair, fair. Yeah, you do. You do have some crazy hours. I feel like whenever I'm messaging with you, you reply at times I do not expect. Like, I don't get how time zones work, but I think I get them well enough to know that your sleep schedule is absolutely insane, dude.
it's how it's a quote that I had changed. It's a sleep freestyle more than a sleep schedule.
Uh,
But yeah, the first thing that I really want to talk about is a story that I sort of remember you telling me, but nothing that I really remember vividly myself. And I'm sure that many people that are on here don't remember either. Is how this all started and when did this all start?
oh man. So Viola Nation was start. It's been around now since I was in high school, which we don't have to put a year to. But I, boy, it must have been like 2005 ish when I first tracked it down. It used to be called the Fiorentina Offside, and it was just a message board for English speaking Fiorentina fans, which I think at that point were almost all people whose families were from Tuscany or people who had studied abroad there while they were in university. And I was, as a high school kid, I thought that was pretty cool. Uh, I just kind of lurked on there for a while, didn't actually start posting until 2006 maybe. And then yeah, just found the community in the comment section to be extremely welcoming, extremely knowledgeable, just a bunch of wonderful people. There's still a few of the old heads on the site there now, and I think like 2016, 2015 maybe, they put out a call for writers, and I had nothing else really going on in my life at that point, so I figured, yeah, sure, I'll do some writing for them, and that was under the uh, Lorenzo Landini, the amazing Lorenzo Landini. If you want to track him down on Bandcamp, he's doing music now as well. Really talented guy. And he stuck around for a little bit, and then he had to move on. And Chloe Beresford took over, who is one of the smartest and kindest sports writers out there. She's British, and it was also just really interesting to work under, I think specifically under a woman in this space. I mean, as I'm sure you're aware, soccer is a largely masculine activity. And so I think working under her and seeing, I think more than anything, just how much. Shoot, Dennis, remind me, am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
You can say whatever the hell you want.
Okay, cool. Seeing all the bullshit she had to put up with from all these incredibly toxic fans, quote unquote, was, I think, very eye opening for me. And then eventually she moved on. She got some actual like real jobs in the journalism landscape, which obviously Viola Nation is not part of that. And basically everyone else who was working on the site had dropped out, so it was I was the only person there who was allowed to inherit it essentially. And so that would have been 2017 ish, maybe 2018. And yeah, since then I've been running the show, I guess. We moved over to SB Nation in must have been like 2014, I think. So right before I started writing for them, and that'll last as long as it lasts. SB Nation is now owned by venture capitalists and is probably going to shut down at any moment. They've been cutting a bunch of their other soccer websites, and I cannot imagine that one devoted to Fiorentina is making them a lot of money. So we're just trying to enjoy it while it lasts.
So you discovered it around 9 to 10 years before you started having a major role in there. Uh, what did something change in your view of how the whole environment there is, or is it still the same inclusive, quite nice environment that it was for you now that your quote unquote role is different?
It's definitely still the same place. I think I'm really lucky that the people who ran it before me, Tim and Ted, Slakas, Lorenzo, Chloe, just did an incredible job of really ensuring that it's a community. I mean, we talk about Fiorentina more than anything, but the conversations kind of range all over the place. I've got a little bit of background as like a research librarian, and I've helped out a dude working on his master's thesis, like digging up sources for him a while back. I mean, going the other way, like when I've had some rough stuff happen in my life, people have really reached out, helped pick me back up. It's just an incredible community full of people who are really knowledgeable, really smart, extremely passionate about the club and the game. But I think more importantly, really, really try to build each other up and keep us all up really. Which for a club like Fiorentina, where there is emotionally speaking, generally a millstone attached to your neck, dragging you into the depths, that is really important, I think. And so, yeah, I've had to do very little to manage that community. I mean, there's just such a strong presence from people who've joined over the years who are just great and set a tone. Like I don't have to moderate conversations. I don't have to delete comments. I don't have to ban anyone. Generally, like I think the last person I banned was like 4 years ago. Like it's so nice. It's such a pleasant refuge, and I think that is a very rare thing to say about what is essentially a message board online about sports. So I just feel super lucky that I inherited that without really having to do any work for it.
Of course, having followed your show for a while now, there has been some inspiration taken from who I take in this community, and of course, I've not been shy about saying publicly how much you guys, you and the mics, of course, and I'll move on to them for a bit, have inspired me in doing what I'm doing and the honestly rapid rise that I've taken in the past. Not even a year. We are closing up on a year on the 10th of March, which is poetically the club's 100th year anniversary as well.
Hey, well
Uh,
done.
and yeah, even if you don't support Fiorentina, it's more than worth it checking out the site. That's, of course, down below. And if you haven't seen the shows with me and Tito around the final, it's both backlogged on mine and the site. Regarding the mics, now, did they come in after you started running everything? Did you find them? Did they reach out to what happened? How did that happen?
Oh yeah, Big Mike McCormack. I put out a call for writers in, ugh, I don't know, maybe 2019, 2020, something like that. just because I at that time I was work wise, I felt like I couldn't contribute enough writing to like get a new story up every day, basically. And so I wanted to find some other writers who would be comfortable writing, a story a week, give or take. And Mike was one of the people who responded. And I was, I got to be honest, I was real not sure about him. He had no writing experience. He spoke no Italian. He'd only just gotten into soccer a couple of years before, but he was super enthusiastic and aware of his own limitations. And it's like, all right, yeah, let's take a chance on him. I had uh, Lorenzo and Chloe took a chance on me. Like, sure, we'll give this dude a shot. And yeah, I mean, he'll be the first person to tell you he's not a great writer. I don't think that's where his specific genius lies, but he almost immediately developed contacts within the club in Florence. I mean, he's super plugged in to what's going on for a guy who doesn't speak any Italian and lives in Philadelphia. I don't understand. I still don't understand that. Like he's an incredible people person, which I am not. I'm usually very happy, like sitting in a dark room alone, rocking back and forth a little bit. Mike just goes out there and talks to people and gets stuff done. And then when we started the podcast, I think that might have been his idea. Honestly, he pointed out that no one was doing any podcasts on Fiorentina back when we started, which was like, geez, I don't know, 2020 ish. And so we did it for a little bit. I was doing all the editing, sound stuff, which, to be clear, I have less than zero background in. I had to figure it out as I went. You listen to those early shows; they're real bad for that reason. I don't know what I'm doing with it. I can like load it into the open source software and try to edit the
Felt
sounds.
that.
What's that?
Felt that.
Yeah, hey man, yikes. Yeah, you know it. But yeah, dude. And then finally, after a couple of years, Mike Hines got in touch. Was like, hey, do y'all want a producer? Like, he works in sports media as his day job, and could tell that we were just insanely amateur hour, and he was completely right. And he just offered to come in and produce the show. So he did that for a couple of years, and then we went on hiatus because SB Nation cut the show. They told us they weren't going to pay the hosting fees anymore a couple of years ago now. And so we went on hiatus, and then when we relaunched, we figured, hey, let's get Hines behind the mic. He's funny, and he also is a little bit less, how would you say, prone to wandering off topic than McMike and I are. He's a little more dialed in, which is really, really helpful for us, because otherwise we'll just go on these tangents that have nothing to do with Fiorentina for like 20 minutes and then come back and realize like, oh, cool. Here's a like 3.5 hour podcast if you want to listen to it, which nobody does because that's a terrible idea. So yeah, that's about where it all came from.
Um, I think that what you said about being more dialed in is exactly what Gav is to this show for me. So- because I don't know if you've seen, like, some of my solo shows are like an hour and 30 minutes of me just wandering through topics. Uh, and I
Yeah.
think it's safe to say that you guys aren't just some of the most entertaining people that I've ever run in, but such wonderful people to be guests on. It's still my favorite guest. I've not had many yet, but it's still my favorite guest appearance that I've had, and it will be top of that list for sure for a while.
Well, thank you.
Uh, of course. The next thing that I really want to ask you is taking it a bit further back. How did you run into Fiorentina?
Oh man, so it's sort of a multi-step process. So my grandmother is Italian. She's from the bustling metropolis of San Benedetto Po in the very, very south end of Lombardy. And her family got chased out of Italy in the early 30s by the fascists, and because they came to the U.S. and had an entire enormous nation to settle in, and because they must have been the dumbest people on earth, they chose to settle in West Virginia and mine coal. I'm not sure if you're familiar with West Virginia. I hope you're not. Excuse me.
I am.
Okay, yeah. So it's just like the most backwards maybe part of the country. I think something like 10% of the population of West Virginia still lacks indoor plumbing, like right now, as of this year, which is just insane. And so my grandmother, luckily for me, got out of there. Uh, and she died when I was very young. I have almost no memories of her. But one of her favorite thing to do was go to Florence. She loved the city of Florence. She went back several times. I think she. This is slightly uncomfortable, but she followed Luciano Pavarotti around on tour after she divorced my grandfather. So she was essentially a Pavarotti groupie for many years of her life, which is just a weird idea for an older lady and an older, slightly rotund man. But here we are. And I think she spent a lot of time traveling through Florence with him on tour. And so when she died, she wanted her ashes scattered in the city. And so we went over. My dad kept her ashes in his closet for, man, something like 9, 10 years. And then we finally, as a family, went over and scattered her ashes into the Arno, which was a pretty big deal. So I've always felt ever since then, rather, not always, ever since then, I felt a very strong connection with the city of Florence. And then also, when I was around that age, we got cable TV for the first time. My family, like, I grew up not watching any TV. I still don't really watch TV aside from soccer. Uh, but we got cable, big deal, and one of the channels we got was Sky Sports, which, again, we don't have to talk about what year this was, but they did occasionally show Serie A. And so I tuned in one time for a game and saw this team wearing purple, which, I mean, no one wears purple. And they had this incredibly charismatic, charismatic group of players. And I fell in love when I realized, oh, this is Florence. Like, all right, I guess this is my team now. And I'm not saying it's the worst mistake I've ever made in my life, but it definitely it ranks in like probably the top 5 or 6, I would say, if I'm trying to be real honest about it.
Probably one of, if not the most interesting fandom story I have ever really heard. Uh, and in general, with what you guys are building, it all just ties in perfectly. And the thing that I want to follow up with, speaking of what you guys are building, is of course the story that I desperately asked you that I needed to know. And that's, of course, your post every single time Fiorentina concedes a goal. Uh, with the animal that in English I can't even pronounce correctly because I don't know how it's pronounced correctly.
It's the top ear.
Tapir, thank you. How? Just how?
Oh man, I have no idea honestly where that started. I mean, we live tweet all our games, or not all, but as many as we can. I mean, I'm not waking up for those like 3:30 a.m. kickoffs. I'll be honest with you, I'm too old for that. But yeah, I don't remember what it was, but I mean, I was live tweeting the game and decided instead of I don't know, I mean, this would have been probably 4 years ago, give take. And instead of tweeting that whoever it was had scored against Fiorentina, I decided to tweet a fact about a tapir, which is a large herbivorous animal spread through South America and Southeast Asia. Uh, I mean, just go ahead and Google it. Tapir. They got these weird, long, squiggly noses.
Oh, trust me, I did.
Oh yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad. They're just real funny looking animals. And so I decided instead of saying that Fiorentina had been scored on, why don't I just say something about a tapir? Because that's far more interesting, and people will, derive more value from it. And it just stuck for whatever reason. I mean, I think because most of what we do on Viola Nation is, I mean, like we're not a news site, right? Like we're a fan site, so we're not breaking news. And none of us are smart enough to do like real tactical commentary or like statistical analysis. I'll dip my toe into that stuff and like I'll throw some numbers into R and do some spreadsheets, but like I'm not like a match analyst or a recruitment analyst or something, right? Like I'm a hobbyist. Uh, so yeah, most of what we do is we just try to like be stupid and funny. And I mean, we got that first part down real good, and the top ears are evidence. But yeah, man, it just sort of snowballed from there. So we posted top ear facts for about a year, and then I started running out of facts about top ears because they're, I mean, as animals, they can only be so interesting. So I just started posting pictures of them. And here's the thing, man. There's a lot of pictures of top ears. I probably got enough for like 30 more Fiorentina seasons before I got to start repeating. And I feel so grateful for that. Truly. I just feel so blessed by all these top ears.
And I think I speak for everyone when I say that it gets everyone, especially me, every single time that a photo just randomly pops up on my Twitter feed. Uh, it's amazing. It really is, and the story makes it even better.
Uh,
Uh, Moving on to the team a bit. Been keeping up through you guys. I've been keeping up as much as I can. You had told me before, especially the summer happened. You told me some stuff you were thinking about heading into this season. How have your expectations gone, and what do you think will really follow up?
oh man. I mean, it's been I think a very Fiorentina season in that everyone has whiplash. Uh, the team started out pretty bad. The new coach Raffaele Palladino tried to install a new shape. The man, I hope that was just straight vodka. Uh, and sold a bunch of players. Brought in a bunch of new players. End of a cycle after 3 years of the same coach. Some results in finals that we don't really have to talk about here. I'm sure you're aware of them. And yeah, so it was a little bit of a rough start. I think everyone kind of expected that, and then all of a sudden the team really hit its stride. Won 8 in a row in the league, and suddenly looked, I think reached up to third place at one point. Suddenly looked like one of the better teams in Italy, and then on loan midfielder Eduardo Bove had a cardiac incident during a game, which was absolutely terrifying. Collapsed on the field, had to be rushed to the hospital. I mean, thank goodness he's okay right now, but he can't play anymore. He's been fitted with a pacemaker. The rules in Italy are that anyone with a pacemaker is not allowed to participate in any sporting activities legally. So he's out for the season. He's still around the team. He's doing some coaching. He's doing some modeling also, and showed up at Sanremo, the music festival, to introduce some people. So I mean, he's like a what 21, 22 year old kid. Like I feel terrible for him. Like that's just awful. And he's really having to reconsider his career. There's talk that he might be able to continue in England, kind of like Christian Eriksen did when he collapsed and couldn't play at Inter anymore. But I guess the English either trust their medical system more than everyone else or are more comfortable with people dying on the field. I don't know which. Doesn't really matter here. But yeah, he's just hanging out in Florence until the end of the year. But yeah, once he went out, the team really just collapsed. I think they're Oh boy, I think they've lost 5 of their last 6. They've put up a single point in that time against Juventus of all people, which felt pretty good, but you know, it's still not enough. So I think on aggregate, I would say that sitting in a seventh place right now, sixth or seventh place. I don't even know. Sorry, I have no idea what's going on. It's there's been some stuff going on this end. Uh, I'd say they're probably about where I would have thought, maybe slightly ahead. Although I think they're probably going to drop a little bit more. There's been, typical amounts. Yeah, that is the truth, Maria. You were not wrong. Uh, the winter mercado has not gone really according to plan. There's only been a couple of arrivals, uh, and there are still obviously huge gaps in the squad. I think the other big thing here is that the club captain Cristiano Biraghi had a public falling out with the coach, and his agent went on social media and just ethered everything he could find. So everyone said, you said he was pulling Biraghi out of Florence. Here we are, 3 weeks into the Mercado, and Biraghi is still in Florence and not training with the team. So that's a deeply uncomfortable situation, and I think is evidence of a wider divide within the club, but amongst management, possibly amongst players. There's been a little bit of chatter about Palladino getting fired, which is insane and stupid considering where he's gotten the club to, especially given some of the adverse circumstances. But, this is Italy, where the average managerial tenure is less than a full season, and that's averaging in like Gianpiero Gasparini, who's been at Atalanta for 8 years, and Simone Inzaghi, who's been at Inter for 4 or 5. So if you take out those complete outliers, the average tenure for a manager is like half a season. Rocco Commisso, the club owner, has been pretty slow to fire people. He really, really doesn't want to fire coaches. So I don't think Palladino's getting the sack unless he does a full Delio Rossi and attacks one of his players in the dugout. If you don't get that reference, just go to YouTube, search
Oh, I
Delio
do.
Rossi. Yeah, and you can see him. What would that have been, like 2013 maybe? Sub off Adam Ljajic, and Ljajic gives him some attitude, and Delio Rossi, who was probably 60 at that point, came after him and started swinging, and it's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So barring that, I don't think Palladino's getting sacked mid-season. But yeah, I think he's done an okay job. I think everyone knew this was going to be a transition year for Fiorentina. New coach, a bunch of new players, and he's still got them in the European places. So I think that is, it's not like a miracle, but it's a not insignificant accomplishment. So yeah, I guess it's about what I would expect from Fiorentina. Top half of the table, competing for Europe, absolute mayhem, because that's sort of the brand.
How has stuff been going in Europe? I've seen you qualified, but not much else.
It was a little bit rocky. Start of the season, there were a lot of issues at the back. Fiorentina's big summer defensive signing, Martin Pongracic, who was brought in to replace Nikola Milenkovic, who has been, I think, pretty much everyone who watches the Premier League, who I know, has agreed that he's been the signing of the season for them. Fiorentina befata, per oggi per sempre. So yeah, Pongracic has, I think he's played 8 games so far. He might have more cards than appearances still, which is a truly remarkable accomplishment. He's been hurt for most of the year. I don't think he's made an appearance in like 2.5 months. But he just did not look good in a back three, and then he's been hurt ever since Palladino moved to a back four. So that has not helped. So he was still in the lineup through the early parts of the campaign. Fiorentina was just was conceding the stupidest goals you've ever seen, if I'm honest. And I mean, that hasn't stopped. They conceded one directly from a goal kick against 10-man Torino this past week, which made me like want to tear my beard out by the roots. Sorry, I'm going back to a dark place here. But yeah, it's after the squad kind of figured some things out, went on a run, and looked better in Europe. Ended up qualifying for the this whole new European like league stage to the knockout rounds. I still don't. I mean, obviously, we all know why it's happening. It's so UEFA can make more money because God knows they don't have enough money. But I just hate it. I think it's so stupid and it puts an undue burden on players. I mean, we all saw what Rodri was talking about for the past year. Players are playing too many games. It's dangerous for them. Then he goes and tears his ACL. It felt like 30 seconds after he said that. I think there's a lesson there. But yeah, Fiorentina kind of limped their way through, scraped by, and is into the next round. We're waiting for the draw, but they go straight into the. I guess they get a bye into the round of 16. I don't even know what language we're using to describe this stuff, if I'm honest. But yeah, man. I mean, so kind of moving along. Hasn't beaten any big teams. Didn't knock off freaking Porto or anything, but I don't think anyone's really expecting much from the team right now, just given that they're, as we say, in a moment that is bad. So yeah, I think. Well, I mean, also, no one Well, I guess it would have made perfect sense for him to reach the final this year, and then get blown out by Chelsea when they got there. I think that's sort of what everyone was joking about, but.
Is my connection gone? Are you gone? Oh no. Everything good on my end? Everything seems good on my end. Oh, well, stuff like this happens. Hopefully, Tito will be back. Someone in the comments, please do confirm that everything is okay on my end. But yeah, stuff like that really just happens uh, in live interviews and stuff. All we can do is wait for a bit. He's back.
Yeah,
You
sorry
good?
about that. Yeah, sorry. I just moved my VPN to Greece and hoped that would help the connection feel closer here and not drop me again. So let's see if that works.
Everything was going fine up until the sudden pause, so
Well, I mean
nothing really too
that's
worrying.
that's kind of been the whole Viola Nation and Fiorentina ethos this whole time. Everything was going fine. Dot dot dot. So yeah, I'm glad we could maintain that brand consistency here.
I mean, last time you were on here, I was the one to cut out, so
Yeah, well, I figured I'd return the favor. But yeah, man. So
yeah.
I'm sorry. Where were we? I think I was just rambling about Fiorentina in
You were
Europe.
talking about Europe. Yeah, that's what you were going on about. I don't know if you were done. Or...
Yeah, I was done, man. Y'all don't. I mean, who cares? Conference League, right? Mickey Mouse competition. Y'all have bigger things to worry about. So yeah, let's.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, man.
I I don't know if Porto was a random example or you saw the game yesterday. By the way,
Sorry, say that
you
again.
said you said that we didn't knock off a team like Porto, and I don't know if you saw us beating
I did. I
Porto
did.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I could have told him, hey, watch out for that guy when it starts getting late in the game. He's going to score, and apparently they don't listen. So how
Yeah,
about that?
he's our all-time European top scorer now, which is crazy
Yeah,
with
I
like
believe it.
30 games.
I mean, yeah, because all he does is score goals. I cannot believe some English team has not tried to pay like 30 mil for him. He's just an outstanding player.
Yeah, and the crazy
Genuinely.
reminder is that we got him on a free.
Yikes. Yikes, man.
Yeah.
And
Uh, you
oof.
wanna continue about the team, or should
Oh
I?
yeah. Sure. Sorry, I was just looking at y'all's. I was wondering who y'all were playing next, and Karabakh.
Karabakh.
Yeah, I remember
We,
playing them in the Europa League back in like 20. I want to say it was 2014, maybe 2015. Last time Fiorentina
yeah,
was there.
and we played them 2 years ago and got smacked 3-0 with me being there. So I hope it's not the same.
Ooh, yeah, yeah. Here's hoping. Here's hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is a
Anyways,
chance for us to go massively into the top 8 if we do get that result. So we'll see.
here's
The
hoping, man.
second, exactly, the second to last thing that I wanted to ask you, and two very rambly questions, more or less, is that what's your ultimate goal for this whole thing?
Oh man. Um, I I don't really have one, honestly. I mean, I've always felt like as the person who runs Viola Nation, I'm mostly just like this is going to sound super cheesy, for which I apologize. And my only excuse is that I'm a very cheesy person with very few original thoughts. But I feel like I'm mostly just a steward of that community. Uh, I keep on writing stories and doing the podcast because I feel like it is my duty to that community. Again, they've got me through some bad stuff, and it's just such a wonderful group of people. I want there to be a space for people to talk about Fiorentina in English on the internet. That matters to me. So that's mostly why I do it. Like I don't have any aspirations to get picked up by like the larger media scene and like I don't know, be like a studio analyst or commentator. I'd be terrible with that anyways. I mean, you can hear me on the podcast. I am incapable of expressing myself concisely and accurately. So like that's obviously off the table. And like I'm not gonna get a job working for a club. Like I'm pretty much doing what I want to be doing with it, honestly. Like I'm not interested in growing it any bigger than it gets. Like I don't want it to be one of those things where like I start chasing online clout or whatever just to have it. Like I mean, Fiorentina is a middling team. Uh, what's our podcast say about like one of the 10 best English language Fiorentina podcasts about the eighth biggest team in Italy in the eighth biggest team in like the fourth biggest league in the world, right? Like this is not a big project. This is for people who I mean, like if you're an English speaking person and you're a Fiorentina fan, you're a weirdo. Like let's be very clear on this. Like you didn't choose this club because it's going to win stuff. You chose this club because you A have a family connection, B studied abroad there and feel a connection to the city, or C you're some kind of hipster scum who likes weird stuff and being sort of on the fringes of pop culture without actually being in it. I include myself in that also, to be clear. Uh, so yeah, like it's not supposed to be a big thing. Like it's not for everyone. It's for all these like goofballs, weirdos, and I'm happy for it to be there. Like that's who I want to be hanging out with when I'm doing sports. I'm not interested in being part of like the larger media picture. I want to be part of a thing where like I can post pictures of top years and occasionally write like short speculative fiction uh, instead of actual team coverage and do stuff like that. And I don't think I'd be able to do that if this were a bigger or more real thing. And I mean, that's the other thing about being so small is like my audience pretty much has to put up with it, right? Like no one else is covering Fiorentina in English. So yeah, you gotta sort of indulge me when I'm going to do my stuff that I do when I get real bored and want to try something different. And so yeah, man, that's pretty much it. Like there's no real goal other than keeping it going.
As much as you may hate the description or find it cheesy, you've definitely, for sure, kept some people much needed company. As you said, that the community has lifted you up as well. And as I've told you many times, you've changed the way how I look at this whole thing. And as you've seen by probably some of my tweets coming up, I've taken stuff from you guys as well.
Hey man, it's yours. I love that. I mean, that's
Uh,
one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons we like you so much, man. Like that's one of the reasons I'm like willing to come on the show. I feel like you get it. You're here to yeah, not like try to be some kind of professional media person, but have a good time and connect the people who want to be connected. Like that feels like the whole point to me. So yeah,
it
dude.
is the whole point. It really will always be the whole point. That's something I've promised to a community that's taken a 20, almost 21-year-old kid that started something very random and took the platform and put it 5 levels above what it should be. That will always be the whole and the
So,
absolute point of it.
sorry. I got to come back to something you just said. You're how old?
I am 20, turning 21 on March 5th.
Oh boy. Cool. 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 Cool.
I was pretty sure I had told you. That's why I just flew over it.
Oh man, no, that's great. That's great. I'm delighted. I just just got this glimpse of my own mortality there for a second, and you know, delightful, delightful. Can't wait. Sorry, didn't mean to derail that. Sorry.
No, no, no. Uh, the last thing that I want to get through doesn't really have anything to do with sports, but more or less with you. And it's a question that I have taken and want to keep taking from someone that I look up to very much doing interviews. That's Chris Van Vliet, for those of you who do know him. For those of you who don't, I've tweeted about him in the past. And the question is this: what are 3 things that you are grateful for right now?
Ooh boy. Um, man. I mean, again, not to be real cheesy, but I'm about to be real cheesy. I'm gonna have to start out with my wife, who is a truly wonderful, patient, beautiful person who puts up with me. Uh, on our honeymoon, I took her to a Fiorentina game in Florence, 2-0 Fiorentina. Jordan Veretout penalty and Cristiano Biraghi free kick at the death. If anyone wants to see how long we've been married, you can probably track that down. She does not care about sports in the slightest, but she was up for it, went to the stadium, laughed at the small Italian child yelling horrible, horrible things at the Atalanta players, even though she doesn't speak Italian. Just her willingness to like put up with me in this hobby and in everything else, I think is a huge piece of it. Let's start there. That's number one. Number two, again, real cheesy, but I'm just getting over a 2 month respiratory issue. Uh, Probably because there's been a bunch of mold in my apartment that I've been breathing in, and these spores have now taken over my brain. I split custody of my body now with these spores. So you caught me at a time when I am in control. Probably later today they're going to take over, and I'll have excuse me, no idea of what's going on around me. But yeah, having my health back more or less is great. Like being able to go to the gym. I still play soccer usually. I mean, not recently because I've been sick, but usually like 3 times a week. I get to the gym 3, 4 times a week, and yeah, just having that physical health uh, means a lot to me. I've been, you know, some kind of athlete for my whole life. Like I played multiple sports in high school. I originally went to college to play American football way back in the midst of time. Like that idea that I play sports, that's what I do, has really colored who I am as a person. Is like a huge part of my self conception, which is again a fairly embarrassing thing, right? Like I'm playing Sunday league, like I'm playing in over 30 leagues sometimes. Like I'm not actually a good athlete, but it still controls so much of like how my brain pictures me and thinks about myself in that physical milieu. Man, number three. I mean, honestly, probably the internet in a lot of ways. Like, it lets. I mean, one, it lets me like reach out and meet people. Like, here I am talking to someone in like literally halfway around the world, like on the other side of the globe, on a podcast. Which I what? Like that's insane. Like I cannot imagine even like 5 years ago that this would be a thing I got to do. And I'm very grateful for it. And it just feels super cool that I get to do this. Like one of my, like, even outside of like Fiorentina and soccer, like one of my hobbies, and again, this is because I'm like a weird neurotic person, is just reading Wikipedia. Like I just read Wikipedia articles. I log on, or not log on, but like click on the front page of Wikipedia every day and read all the articles on the front page, just because I want to know as much useless stuff as possible. And eventually I'm going to read that whole website and it'll be great. But like, yeah, man, just being able to get online and like connect with people and information and do all this stuff that I otherwise wouldn't be able to do. I mean, I know that like the internet is a cesspool, particularly social media. Like these things are bad, like straight up, not just in general, but like for humans, pretty much always, right? But even so, just I'm really grateful that I can open up a laptop and do stuff like this and yeah, be able to do it. So yeah, thanks Tim Berners Lee and or Al Gore, I guess.
Those examples, I think, are the perfect thing to end off. Unless you want to focus on anything else to finish off, do let everyone know where to find you guys, what you do, and everything.
Oh yeah, we're the website is violination.com. Uh Again, like I'm not writing anything new or interesting. Come for the comments. You can skip the articles generally. They're not I mean, they're all aggregation of other news, but the comments are where stuff's really going on. Great community there. Cannot emphasize enough. We're also, God help us, still on Twitter at Viola_nation. Excuse me. And we've also started posting stuff on Bluesky, which, I mean, it's still social media, so it's bad, right? That's the nature of social media. But, it's a little bit less toxic. It's not owned by a Nazi.
Need to
And
follow you there as well.
yeah, I mean, it's tough for like the sports scene, I think. A lot of American teams are moving over there, but it seems like a lot of European teams have not. Like, there's very little Serie A discussion there that I've been able to find.
I've
I
been treated well enough there. I think I
Yeah,
have like 50 other people following.
yeah. I mean, that's probably what we have. But it's also just really nice that like you're not getting constantly like harassed by messages and replies from like porn bots and crypto AI scams. So like it's again, it's still social media. It's bad, right? Social media is not a good thing, but it's a lot nicer right now. I'm sure it will become a cesspool as well. soon enough. But like for now, at least, it is kind of pleasant, and so we're over there too.
Yeah, the link to the website is down below. I'll make sure when we end this, I'll make sure to add the Twitter and the Blue Sky as well.
Oh, and our podcast you could find if you just search Viola Nation anywhere uh, where you listen to podcasts. We're around, except not on YouTube. You don't need to see the mics and me. We are not cut out for video physically.
So that was by choice, the no YouTube thing. I guess.
Yeah, it's just when it was just McMike and me, I was teaching myself how to do the audio editing and decided video was simply too much. I was so scared of that. And then when Heinz came on, I didn't want to add a bunch of work for him, so we were just audio. And now, like, I don't know, man. Like, you can see me. Like, this is a face for radio. And I'm not saying McMike and Heinz are homelier than I am, but I'm not saying they're better looking either. So yeah, we're just audio, no YouTube, no video streaming. Also, we're all old, so like video is still like we're it's just not us.
Oh, video is still bitch even for me. Don't compare it like that. Video and YouTube will always be just a bitch to work with, but that's a whole different story. But yeah, just thank you once again. A solid hour of some of the most fun recording ever once again. And yeah, just thank you. Nothing much more to say.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It always a real pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Give Gav my best next time you see him too. Tell him that the Suns are terrible, and I think it's hilarious that Matt Ishbia is made nothing but bad decisions.
Nah, tell him that as well. Don't worry.
Wonderful. In that case, you already know that I'm set. But
Yeah,
yeah,
of
man.
course.
All right,
I'll
Dennis. Take
talk to
care,
you
man.
soon. Yeah, of
Yeah, we'll
course,
be in
you too,
touch.
man.
Take care.